He was on the head of a broccoli over there.
Okay, this was probably broccoli that had been sprayed by BT.
Oh.
Have you guys sprayed?
I just had him spray BT last week because I realized
there you go. So what?
Himself up.
Yeah, what happened here was it ate the BT and its guts dissolved. And so the first thing that it did, probably where that was, is it'll regurgitate its gut contents. You'll see this caterpillar puke, and then they'll be hanging there like this, and then sometimes they drop off. So if I'm scouting, sometimes I don't even see this guy, but I see this big mass of puke, and I'm like, that one is gone. So there's all, you know, this is just like tracking wildlife. If you know what to do, you're at night, you've shot a deer, you want to see where the blood is, you use a black light and then blood glows. Okay, not that I want to do that, but I'm just telling you, there's all kinds of little, I mean, this is what happens when you hang out in fields year in and year out and try to figure out, and this is the stuff that we would have to figure out. So we would spray our stuff with BT, and we would have to wait, you got to wait at least 24 hours for them to eat this stuff. And the thing that Charles had a problem with this was he goes, I want to spray something and I want to see those worms curling up and dropping. And I'm like, dude, this will do the same thing, just wait a couple days. You know, and I'd walk him back through the field and we'd see him like this. And the other thing that we would always do when we harvest our broccoli is we'd have these big tubs of slurry water, ice that's at 34 degrees. You can't count past 5 with your hand in the water. And you put broccoli down in there and just swish it around. If there's any pests or beneficials in there, it washes them out. So we'd have these big tubs where we're just washing everything down. We wash it a few times and then pack it. You need just as much ice as you do broccoli when you're packing broccoli, because you're basically making a solid block in a 20-pound box. And we use flake ice, okay? So this brings back really good memories to me right there.
Okay, and a word about BT. Gotta get this into every talk, right? And now there's a great movie to give you the information about it, Genetic Roulette. We have a link to it on our website. You have to watch that movie because that BT dissolves the gut of the worm, right? It doesn't really affect us the same way. So we could eat that leaf and we wouldn't get our guts dissolved. But the wisdom of genetic engineering, they now have it so that if you eat corn, the BT toxin is expressed in every cell of that corn.
Right.
So people are eating.
I would venture to say that even though the science may think it's out in terms of how it affects our digestion, as a population right now, we have an epidemic of messed up digestion.
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going.
Even regular BT?
Yeah, that's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. The thing is, when we spray it like a silver bullet.
Okay.
You know, we
Tell us
spray
about
it
a
once on the
cucumber,
broccoli, and it breaks down in a
That's
matter of
an
hours. It's
Argentine
not
ant.
in the cell. You know, it's not being expressed by the plant in every cell. You know, and so you're not really digesting it. It's gone by the time you get it when we spray it. It's a fine thing to use it the way we use it, except for the fact that they are making insects resistant to it by having so much of it out there.
Exactly.
But exactly what she was saying, now we have these epidemics of leaky gut and things like that, and this has started to happen after we did this experiment on our population.
That's right.
Which is BT toxin in everything you buy in the supermarket. I mean, if it's got corn in it, it's got BT toxin.
That's right.
If it's got cotton seed oil, BT toxin. And watch that movie.
And
after you watch it,
the proteins don't digest, right? So then it's producing BT in your gut.
Well, and they also don't know how the actual bacteria that's in our gut, when that
Reacts with it.
The bacteria can actually genetically modify themselves. So you're introducing organisms into your own body that then they can genetically modify their own genetic code in your stomach, and then you start producing populations of nobody knows what it can happen yet with those populations.
And the same thing's happening with alfalfa, that they've engineered alfalfa to be Roundup resistant, and they've shown now that causes botulism in cattle. That gene, there's something in there that causes an anaerobic effect when the cattle eat it, and the cattle are getting botulism and dying.
so we were off topic. I apologize.
No, that's not off topic.
When is the one-shot time then when the florets?
Cupping.
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
Well, come over here and look at those.
Those that are about this big.
That's okay. It would be back. Right now, even, it would be actually a little earlier. You want it when it's a button,
We were a
right?
little behind this here.
All
But
right.
we'll put it
Okay.
away with
Just
it,
like
you
a button, like a side.
know? Hit this just right.
If you spray now with BT, let's just say that you had a pest pressure that would justify. You know, you're going for market like some of us are, where your standards have to be a little higher. If you hit this now with BT with the cool weather, I'll guarantee you it doesn't matter if imported cabbage worm butterfly comes in here and lays an egg, it ain't going to make it And then the other thing that we would do is we'd,
the broccoli before it's mature.
yeah, and the worm might have gotten that big, and then the other thing, of course, is I'm going to rinse it in that tub, but we would always put everything in this tub and rinse everything through, and it's all out of there. No, I haven't, but
You can put them in with the squash plug if you want.
yeah. Here's this is an imported cabbage worm, and it's actually parasitized. So I may cut it open, and you can see all these weird wasp larvae in there.
He can tell that from
I
15
can,
feet.
this
I've
is,
seen him walk by 15 feet away and tell.
He's reading his aura.
you know, I was the outcast in grade school and high school, and now I'm going to make everybody pay for it, man, because I was a geek, right? So what we do, I hate to do this, and we may get good.
Wait, I got the knife.
Yeah, do you want to see this?
Perform the surgery on the.
All right, here we go. This is called head capsule eversion, and what we now.
Go next to the camera.
So if you guys are scouting and you find one of these, you could do one of two things. You know, I already know that this thing's parasitized, and it's got about 20 to 30 wasp larvae in there. So I'm going to cut. So what we would do is, if I'm scouting, this is a beneficial, right? And it's actually more than one. I may not say 20, but I'm going to say maybe like 5.
Here, wait. Got it. Just let me
Okay.
get a shot. Just don't be in the shadow.
All right, here, I'll come in here.
I'm good. I can zoom.
You good? Okay. Sorry, I just cut its head off. All right, now watch this. You squish it like this. And see all the wasp larvae? All those little, those are wasp larvae.
Well, that's cool.
And now I will eat them. No. But what I'm telling you guys, when I scout, if I'm scouting, it's all poofed. It's puffed up. And the other thing is they're not dark green. They're real light yellow. I mean, I should have shown you that in the light, and actually we got that. So there are, you know, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's another 10 there. Sorry that you guys are not going to make it. I'm going to throw them down here now.
Only ones that won't make it this year, though.
But, so yeah, well, that would have hatched in about 3 or 4 more days. Those would have popped out of the side of that caterpillar. And Pat, here's your knife.
They have to have the worm for lunch.
They have to have that worm, and then the other thing is you guys saw all the pictures I had of the wasp porno where they're mating in the flowers, right? And the other male is there too. You know, we weren't sure what was really going on there from a family bug standpoint, okay? But when I'm out scouting then, you guys can see right away, if we find that dead caterpillar, that's, we may just mark that as a dead one. But there's all these different things that give us signs that our beneficials are at work. And I don't have to see everything. If I see a ladybug pupal case, I know there's a ladybug around there. I don't need to see the ladybug, you know? And so once you do this, and that's why I was saying this EPM goal, and I'm sorry it got a little confused up front there because I didn't realize that the smart board was smarter than me. But when I'm out scouting and I've got my clipboard, this is what I'm doing. I'm going around, and what you guys can see right now is if we lined this up, we have more than 1/3 to 1/4 of what we found are beneficials here. So yes, this is not going to have a lot of pest problems if you just write it right. The other thing that you can see if you look here, this is harlequin bug damage. Okay, see that stippling on that leaf? I can tell from being back here. And the other thing about this, when you have this kind of plant, there's going to be eggs and adults of the harlequin bug in here, okay? There they are.
The damage, you'll see them, you know?
There they are. Okay, and see that damage? It's stippling.
It's right behind
Right,
the damage.
here's the male. Male doesn't make much of a squish, but oh, the female has all these nice yellow eggs. Bye. Okay, so now on this plant, what I would do is I'm scouting, but I got my holster of soap, and I'm soaping this plant, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to start looking, right? And somewhere on here, it may not be on this one, you might have got it early, but there would usually be harlequin bug eggs somewhere. Have you? Okay. Yeah, okay, well then that's what's happened here.
I mean, we have basically aced.
But you guys see, I mean, once you get to this, you can actually scout some of this from a little bit of a distance. I mean, I'm walking around, I see that, I'm like, harlequin bug, bam. And normally I would soap that plant because I'd be looking for harlequin bug eggs, okay?
Those are like a honeycomb.
No, actually,
Right.
that's good too. That's the damage from the harlequin bug. Is that harlequin bug damage too?
No,
No, I didn't think.
that's a leaf miner.
Leaf miner, he's right, okay.
That's a Nebraska leaf miner. Now, let me tell you guys something else that we learned at Virginia Tech. This was something really interesting. the woman named Karen Vale, who's an urban entomologist now at University of Tennessee, was doing a study on broccoli. And what we found year in and year out, at first we thought this was an anomaly. We would damage 50% of the leaves. You know, so what we would do is we'd come in here and tear half the leaves off. And we found that our broccoli that we did that to out-yielded our other broccoli. And so the first year that we did that, we're like, oh, this is some kind of anomaly. So we'll do it again. Happened again.
It out-yielded.
It out-yielded the regular broccoli every time.
Didn't have 50% of leaves damaged.
And I'll tell you what the trick is. If you guys are growing broccoli, you can let it get 50% of damage up to cupping and then control it. Because if you think about these plants, when are these plants the most open? They're open when they cup. Now this one's a little further along, but you know what I mean. When it's a button like this, that's when I'm going to spray it. I'll spray all this with BT or whatever, you know, whatever benign. And you got spiders in here too. So there's quite a bit of beneficials in here.
I'd say, okay, talk about swimming upstream. I just attended a broccoli workshop, and in that broccoli workshop, a very good presentation was given by an extension agent about organic controls of broccoli pests. And in there he said that Richard McDonald said that you could let 50% defoliation occur on your broccoli and still get a good yield. The next thing he said was, I don't know any farmer that's willing to do that. And I sat there thinking, well, I do. But it's just, I mean, they're just afraid to. You know, it's just like that's their crop. And I want to confess, I had a CSA.
This looks way prettier than stuff that's torn up.
Four rows of broccoli, 400 feet rows. Somebody's got acres and acres. They're going to be worried about that.
Right.
But I did that, and then came back, and I spent several hours photographing all the beneficials that were controlling the broccoli pest. I had every kind of predatory bug on there. I had the Baconid wasp. I had ladybugs. I had the bracketing. I had all the controls happening, and those plants gave me on average 8-inch heads and loads of side shoots. So it's like, I understand why the average farmer's afraid to do it, but if you can just hold your fire and trust.
Well, and it depends who your market is.
Yeah.
You know, if your market is Whole Foods or, you know, Eastern Carolina organic growers, they're not going to put up with a worm. They just won't. That's just the, you know, you're buying their ticket, right? But if you're selling locally, you know, and we're selling our broccoli like $3 a pound, hand over fist, well, we're cutting the market man out. You know what I mean? And we're getting a really good price. And people will not normally find a pest or a beneficial in our, the thing that people started finding in our stuff were syrphid fly larvae, and that's when we started washing. Because I'm going to Bare Essentials and I'm going to their manager, I'm like, don't you realize these are beneficials? And she's like, you can't tell my customers that. They just say there's a worm in there. And they're right, it is kind of a worm, right? You know, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, Angie, all right, okay, we'll wash stuff. And washing took care of it.
I think it's going to change anyway. It'll be the point will come where people will be like, oh, I'm excited to see a worm in my food. It means
Well, that's been right, exactly. That's
My response to the farmer that apologizes for the corn.
no, well, I'll tell you what.
Point that out. We're looking at the bugs, but maybe the
Yeah,
Farmscaping
I'll
would-
tell you what. Buffalo clover is great for ladybugs, but I hate that stuff. You know what I mean? There's an invasive. So you know what? If there's going to be another farmscaping plant that will work much better.
What's buffalo clover?
That Gallisoga, that.
Which, by the way, is a prized edible in Colombia. And indeed, I just told Hector that I had it here. He said, that's a very rare plant. I go, you can
All
actually
right,
go to the Colombian
come over.
Embassy's homepage, and the recipe that uses Gallisoga as Huasca is on their homepage.
Good grief.
It's the national dish.
Well, you know what's crazy too?
They stew
What
it
is
with
it?
potatoes and corn and tomatoes and chicken.
And then leafy
And it's the
spurge.
kind of potato we can't even grow. You know?
The Hispanics eat leafy spurge. We had leafy spurge as a weed, and these guys, you know, in our broccoli, and they're going, oh, no, leave that alone. That's on my organic. And they're coming in and they're picking big things of it, and then they fixed it up. And of course, you have to be careful eating a lot of that because it's got oxalic acid in it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this is an edible? I thought this was a weed.
Yeah,
And so that's
sounds
part
like
of this
one
whole
those
thing.
prolific weeds.